Yep. I managed to color in the page spread that I started on my live stream, and it came up a little bit. Yeah, I kind of lost my enthusiasm about writing something up here, so I'm not sure I'm gonna write the text. But I'm finished drawing this sea monster, and I gave him a little bit of scale, hold back on the Posca word, because I'm just content to where he ended to be. So, and yeah, I just spent the last half hour sharpening my pencils because I want to draw in my fan art journal covering episode 5 of Rings of Power, but I am left with like nothing. I am having one of those artist blocks, you could call it, where I got images that I think I could draw, but I can't back up the history behind the images because it annoys me. So I don't want to draw those, and then I am just yeah. If you're following Rings of Power and have not yet seen episode 5, don't watch further in this upload of mine because I'm gonna reveal what's happening. And season 5 is boring enough in itself, so me revealing some of the things that's gonna happen is just making it even more boring to watch because literally nothing happened. The Harfoots are still wandering, people are still in the watchtower, and the Númenóreans has not yet left the port going into war. So you could say that it's like status quo if you look at it with the big glasses, you know. It was just like a lot of bickering and drama within the characters, but nobody really stepped up and developed. So I think that the most reasonable thing to do would be to start up a portrait of Halbrand, you know, like I did portraits of other characters. So I sat down working on a timeline with Halbrand because I found it difficult to pick an image. So I started thinking about where and, you know, in the story could I like find an image that I would hit down and say like, oh, I would like to draw that. And then I realized that the timeline in this TV series is messing me up so badly. It's messing with me that I need to do this time spread instead. This is not really a time spread with fan art because I chose the Scream from Edward Munch because that's how I feel after watching episode 5. And I think it's so crazy that episode 5 is titled Partings because honestly, I think a lot of viewers are parting with this TV series at exactly episode 5 because it's a game changer. I am super anal with details, and for those who have watched me in my channel for a long time know that I notice stupid things like numbers and ridiculous details. I mean, I can't help it. That's just my nature. So with that in mind, picture me watching episode 5 and you would be like, oh my god, this is not healthy for you. And that's just exactly what have happened. I made myself a timeline over Halbrand's life in this TV series because there's something off, something really off. I came to this. On day 1, Theo finds a sword and Bronwyn talks to the people in her village about why don't we escape. I mean, several villages around them has already been attacked and burnt down by the enemy. The elves have left the watchtower. We should freaking leave this place now if we want to live. So on day 2, people are fleeing to the watchtower. And they experience that people from the surrounding villages also are coming to this watchtower, which in itself is a little bit ridiculous because let's talk about this building, right? It is what it is, a tiny slim watchtower, but apparently it can house people from not only the nearby village, but also surrounding villages. And all the people who fled to this watchtower didn't even care to bring provision with them, so they're starving. What they portray on the camera is only a small crowd of people. Everything in episode 5 is just so small. So if you're going for grand scale, like Peter Jackson's 5,000 to 6,000 army, you're just going to be so disappointed. There's something off with the scale of what you're viewing when you're watching episode 5. At dawn, Theo goes out, by the way, to collect food at the village, and then he's hiding himself in a well, and I think a whole night passed, because it seems like he's crawling out of the well during the night, where it's like potentially most dangerous, because that's where the orcs can walk the ground without sun, right? And then he meets up with Arondir, which is a whole different story. Arondir has been captivated, but is released with the task that he has to go to the watchtower and tell the people in the watchtower that Adar is collecting an army of orcs and is going to besiege this watchtower and attack them. So that's why Arondir suddenly emerged in a forest and managed to rescue Theo and Bronwyn. But he's not the key rescuer. What happens is that they stand in a meadow, and then dawn comes up and the sunlight prevents the orcs to pursue them further, right? So you kind of know that another day is dawning. So that was day number 3. Day number 4, Bronwyn addressed the people in the watchtower, and this is where episode 5 takes off. It's so bad. People, it is so bad. There's so much female girl power in this TV series that it almost makes me want to barf. And I know that I'm probably gonna get some feminists hating what I'm saying right now, but seriously, guys, it seems like every initiative in this TV series comes from a woman ordering and bossing a man to do the job. And right now in episode 5, I'm watching Bronwyn addressing the people, and she just does it so bad, you know. If you were like in her position, let's say you were forced to address people, right? You would not start up like she did by just undermining herself by saying, I know that I have no military skills and I am not your king, but you have to listen to me and follow me. And it's just, I was watching the scene, and next to her is standing Arondir, who is an army elf. He's the only one of them who have watched the enemy in his eyes. He has seen orcs. He has been fighting with the orcs. He's got like military skills. He's got the ability to assess the situation. Why is he not the one speaking to the people? I don't know. But it just felt a little bit lame to see small Bronwyn standing there, and then she asked, will you follow me? And then nobody reacts, right? And then she rephrased her question, and then she says, will you stay and fight? And then some raises their hand, and then she gets interrupted by this creepy guy who also have touched the sword from Morgoth, and he's like, no, you know what, we should just surrender. Just get on our knees in front of Adar and just surrender. That's the only way we're gonna survive. And then half the people of this watchtower flee with him towards Adar in order to surrender. This is important to know because in episode 5, there is a scene where Halbrand is standing in front of Queen Tar Miriel, and she asks him directly straight out, where were the enemy when you left them? And Halbrand, he answers, they were marching towards a watchtower. that really messed with me so hard. It messed with me so badly, because there's something so wrong with this timeline, because episode 5 is building up this anticipation that Numenor is going to border some ships, sail to the western or eastern land or Sunderland, whatever it's called, march to the watchtower, and then aid the people in the watchtower. So it's just messed with me that Halbrand know information about this mission, because so far in the TV series, the only people who has been told that Ada is going to attack a watchtower is Arondir. And he has walked back to the watchtower and warning people, which means that Halbrand must be among the crowds that left the watchtower on day 4. Which also means that Halbrand has spent a heck of a lot of days after leaving this watchtower. Yeah. So, just to sum it up, the timeline I have made, and I may have made some mistakes on the way because I'm not perfect, but as far as I can figure out, on day 4, or eventually also on day 5, Halbrand was among those who walked out of the watchtower, because they're showing a footage of his flashback, and the footage shows the people from the watchtower bending down on their knees in front of Ada. And somehow he escaped that situation and did something against his morals to be able to, because that's really messing with him. But he winds up on a ship in an ocean, and the ship is sinked, and he ends up in a raft where he picks up Galadriel from the open sea. And on day 6, him and Galadriel is being picked up by a ship by Numenor. And why do I say it's day 6? Because the scene starts with them waking up in daylight, and when we last saw them, it was nightfall and a big evil storm was approaching them. So a day must have passed, right? On day 7, Halbrand, he steals a Smithy's guild, get into a fight, and get thrown into jail, where he spends the night. On day 8, Galadriel is supposed to depart Numenor but return because this tree is lacking its leaves and telling a sign. On day 9, Galadriel enters a smithy and Halbrand turns around. He's standing there forging a sword, and he's wearing a smithy guild. That really messed with me, how he was able in a day and a half to achieve a smithy guild. Yeah, let's just pause right there. I mean, that is just stupid, right? And I would not make a drawing of him standing bent over on this sword wearing that smithy guild. And by the way, that sword was so pretty and filled with ornaments that he could impossible have made that in only a day. I mean, and I know I'm anal, I know, but I can't just help noticing those details, and it throws me off and makes me dislike what I'm watching. But anyway, he managed to educate himself as a smithy and get handed over a smithy guild and is allowed access to, the smithy. That's when he's having the meeting with Queen Tarmiriel and tell her that last time the army of orcs was walking towards a watchtower, and then on day 10 he boarders a ship and is sailing out of Numenor. So 10 days have passed after he left the tower, which means that it's ridiculous when they shift the scenery and you watch day 5 in the tower, where Bronwyn is talking with Arondir, and they're talking about Theo earlier that day revealed to Arondir that, oh, I found this broken sword, I wonder what it is. And Arondir says, oh, it looks like a key, and then he just revealed this wall decoration on the tower that happens to be a wall decoration showing the history of last time they fought Morgoth and he lost this sword. I mean, that is just an insult that they are keeping on the timeline of the Watchtower and making it look like the timeline of Halbrand is going to crash, a clash where Halbrand is coming to aid the Watchtower. Because 10 days have just happened, and don't tell me that these orcs are more than 10 days about besieging and walking towards the Watchtower, because Arondir managed to escape from that pit where Adar is having his camp in less than a day. And then let's also talk about how much ground you can cover in this Rings of Power. There is a shift in the timeline where they show the Harfoots, which, by the way, are turning out to be very hard, cold creatures, because not only do they chant that nobody get left behind, and then all they're focused on is leaving people behind, and you even see a skeleton of last migration where they left someone behind. You see the broken wagon, and I can just imagine that around that broken wagon you will find like skeletons of dead, deceased Harfoots. But anyway, it's not enough that they cut off people who are too slow. There is this scene where this woman, she's like, I don't want them on this migration, so let's just take their wheel. And I just lost so much for the Harfoot right there. They're freaking evil. So, yeah, but okay, that scene, they show a map, and they got this line showing how far the Harfoots managed to walk on their migration, and they, on their tiny feet, managed to walk hundreds of miles. We're talking about they have been migrated for weeks with it, maybe months even. Which also messed me up a little bit, because why would they, in the storytelling, have some people we are following within few days, and then other people we are following have apparently been on their migration for weeks? I mean, it doesn't really make sense. It makes it messy, you know. Talking about the Harfoot, I was really disappointed. Because you hear Nori sing a song, and she sings something about not all those who wander and wander are lost, and it just chilled on my back, because now I am so sure that this person that I didn't know who to name, is it Meteor Man, is it Starman, is it Gandalf? I mean, now I know for sure that it can only be Gandalf, because Gandalf once wrote a letter to Frodo that was really beautiful, and I looked it up, and it's in chapter 10 in the first book of Lord of the Rings, and there is this sentence in the letter saying that all that is gold does not glitter, not all those who wander are lost. So for Amazon to make Nori sing that line is just maybe them saying that this is where Gandalf heard it. So it could be Gandalf, which is just annoying, because he's not supposed to be there in that time. That would be the same that, you know what, it would be the same if suddenly they landfall in Rohan and meets Aragorn in flesh. Like, what is he doing there now? I mean, that's how I feel, that it's just that maybe I'm too anal, you know. But anyway, there is a lot of things in this episode 5 that happened that I could draw, but I refuse to, because it's gonna remind me of something bad. I don't want to draw Halbrand standing there with his earned guild to be a smithy. Yuck. I don't want to draw the Harfoot, who I think a little bit evil. I mean, the way that they don't want people on their migration, and because they want to force them not to be there, they're willing to destroy their wagon. I mean, that is just so evil. And I don't want to draw that song thing that's revealing that it's Gandalf who is, by the way, still sitting looking like a meth addict in his clothes. I mean, it is just so strange that he's portrayed like that. It's very dislikable. And then I'm thinking, what else could I draw? I still need to draw Celebrimbor, but I'm expecting that he's going to be approached by Anatar. So I would love to make that drawing later on, where you also see that furnish that he's going to build to weld the rings with. I was hoping for that to come here in episode 5, but it may come in episode 6. So that. Okay, I could actually draw one drawing, but that's still also like really annoying. Okay, check this out. There is this really crazy scene between Elrond and King Gil-galad. I thought I was supposed to have respect for King Gil-galad because he's a very respectable character when you read the books from Tolkien, you know. But I am receiving the opposite when I watch The Power of Rings because he is just, oh my god. Okay, Elrond went into Castle Doom and met Durin, and he found out that Durin has reached an ore of mithril, and Durin is so stupid to give Elrond a huge chunk of this mithril while he's saying, swear an oath that you will never tell this to anyone. And then why give him a chunk of it? I know it makes no sense. Like, I would never, if I wanted it to be a secret, I would never hand over a piece of that secret, because you never know in the future if Elrond is encountered with a question of somebody asking, what is that? Who gave you that? Where do you got it from? And then he might be compelled to reveal the secret, right? So why make it harder on Elrond, right? And then King Galad is having a conversation with Elrond that is so stupid and lame. The conversation in the script, I think, is that King Galad wants Elrond to confirm that Durin found mithril. The way that Elrond responds to that question is his answering, I took an oath not to reveal that secret from Durin. Isn't that the same as saying, yes they did, but I swore never to tell you, and by saying that I have already told it to you? I mean, isn't that stupid? And I was laughing when I saw it, thinking like, oh my god, that's like the worst script writing I have ever seen in my life. And then they take it further off the cliff. They clip to a conversation between Elrond and Celebrimbor. And in that clip, the stone is out in daylight in front of both of them, and they're talking openly about this. So it already reveals that Elrond has already broken his oath, apparently, and shared it with Celebrimbor. And then they clip to a next clip where Elrond is standing firmly on, like, I can never break an oath that I have given. But he has already broken it twice. Once by giving such an ass answer back, and then secondly when he shared it with Celebrimbor. So that is just so stupid. So no, I'm not gonna draw a drawing about that. Then, this is so lame. Amazon is the one who is writing this Rings of Power story, right? But I still think that they should respect elements from Tolkien's books that are, you know, there are some guidelines that they could pick. Why mess that up? I mean, that would just be stupid. But they seem to mess up the origin of mithril a ton. The way that I understood, mithril is not like a sacred thing. It's not like a resource. It's something that the Longbeards have and use as collateral. And in fact, Mithril is so common that I even think that we hear that Numenor has it in the Second Age. I mean, it's reachable. It's like gold or silver. Like, you know, it's like a collateral, but it's nothing sacred. It's not like Mithril can save something or is. By the way, Mithril doesn't even glow, so that scene when the dwarves are opening the chest, looking into it, like a scene taken out of Pulp Fiction where he looks in his briefcase and this light shines out and we never know what's in that briefcase. That scene is just so ridiculous because Mithril casts no light from it. But anyway, King Gil-galad, he asked Elrond, have you ever heard the song of the root of Ethingel? And I'm like, what the hell is this? And then Amazon chose to tell the story that an elf once gave it life, his elvish light and life, to a tree that was attacked by a Balgog. And while the elf was fighting to save the tree, a light struck the tree and the lightning's power went down through the root of the tree and into the ground and into the mountain, and that's how Mithril was created. And apparently the power of Mithril will help generate energy so that the elves can stay alive and cross over to Valinor. That is so far-fetched. Guys, I mean, that is so off Tolkien that it ever can be. That was never it, you know? Like, the elves knew that they're gonna diminish when they stay in the realm that is not Valinor, so they kind of chose their own destiny, and it seems like they were free to cross back to Valinor at any time. So, I mean, it's just crazy to twist the story so much that suddenly Mithril is a commodity that's got sacred healing qualities, so the dwarf might dig even deeper because the elves need huge quantities of this Mithril to be alive and to have eternal life. And we all know that the dwarf dug too deep in Khazad Dûm and woke up a Balgog, right? Now Amazon makes it look like the dwarf dug too deep, not because they were greedy like Tolkien wants us to believe, but because they actually was trying to save the whole population of elves. So suddenly, and you know what, the way that I got to learn the dwarf through Tolkien was that dwarf were not interested in the surrounding world. They had a nice time in Khazad Dûm in the mountains. They didn't want to be disturbed. They just want to be left alone inside their mountain. And they kind of dislike other species like elves and men and hobbits. I mean, they had enough in themselves. So to make it sound like, okay, we're gonna flip that around so that dwarves care so much about elves that they will dig themselves into their own doom and destruction just to be able to deliver enough Mithril to save the population of elves on our land. It's just ridiculous and so far-fetched. I don't feel motivated to make a page spread about that, showing the tree, the lightning, the creation of Mithril. I mean, I'm still chewing on it, but I'm thinking, oh man, that is so stupid. So what happened is that I'm kind of left with empty pages. I'm supposed to spend the next days of this week until we are watching episode 6 that hopefully is going to reveal some images that I can put into my journal. But I am standing at a crossroad where I just think that what I viewed in episode 5 called Partings really is parting me from feeling motivated to do any page spread at all. I mean, everything is just flipped around. There also is a scene in episode 5. Let's talk about the ships, because that could be a potential page spread, right? But I just think that, there is this scene where the Numenorians are the Numenorians are Numenoring about whether they should go to war or not. And then they decide, okay, we're gonna go to war, and then they muster 5 ships. And Amazon is the one who is telling us that there is 500 men, and since they got 5 ships, it doesn't take, you know, Miss Marvel to enter here to figure out the algorithm that, okay, there's going to be about 500 men on each ship then. And since the men are cavalrysts, they need 500 horses also. So each ship must be carrying 100 men, 100 horses, provision, armory, whatnot, to a journey. And then in my head, you would, if you crawl into my mind, I'm thinking about a huge ship. That warship had to be like freaking big, and they can do it because I remember that Elrond's brother, his twin brother, had a ship in Numenor that was like a floating castle. So it is possible that Numenorians got huge war battleships, right? Then Amazon shows how it looks like. Their fleet is so tiny. I mean, the scale of things in episode 5 is really disappointing. I mean, I could not picture 100 men and 100 horses on board those tiny, small looking like Viking ships, like really, really small ships. And when they sail out, you can only see like 20 soldiers standing on the deck of the ship. There's like a vast space between them, you know. I'm like imagining that below deck there is like 100 horses and 85 soldiers just cringed together, you know, because otherwise this is not possible. But talk about what happens to the ships. Only 3 ships depart the port, because 2 ships gets blown up. And before the 2 ships are blown up, there is this scene when you see a horse is getting hoisted on board the ship. So I think it's such a sad page spread to make. This page spread about 2 ships with 2 ships where there is 200 horses on board getting blown up and into flames. It's just, it's heartbreaking. And nobody in the TV series kind of mention it. Nobody is talking about the loss of animal during that explosion of the ships. So it's just, and it also bothers me. I don't want to be a Sherlock Holmes, but it bothers me that 2 ships get blown up in the harbor and there's no need for investigation. I mean, they just browse over it like, oh, shit happens, you know. No, shit doesn't happen like that. I mean, it's freaking huge. You have to investigate. Why did the ship blew up? I mean, can it happen to the other 3 ships? I mean, you just have to spend time on... The script writers needs to spend time showing us that Numenor cares. So they, of course, are intelligent enough to want to investigate this and not just browse over it. So imagine I spend a lot of time drawing each page spread. So when I select a scene or something to depict, I would like to, like this scene I thought was okay to pick. It's interesting. It's about the I can't even I've been ranting so much that I can't even pronounce it, but this Palantir ball here is an interesting gadget in the Tolkien history, so it was natural for me that this could be a good scene in my journal. The scenes from episode 5, none of them I feel is good scenes. They just reminds me of annoying things, you know. And I'm gonna freak out if episode 6 is only taking place where we see the ships at sea sailing towards the landfall. And if we don't see them landfall in episode 6, I'm gonna freak out, because that only means that so many days has been taking place for the orcs to reach the tower. I mean, that only means that it would take the orcs like 2 months to reach the tower and seize the attack, because we still have to keep in mind that episode 5 gave the impression that Queen Tarmiriel is selecting men to go toward the enemy, and the last known spot where the enemy was the enemy marching towards this watchtower. So if she's gonna make landfall, that is the place that she is supposed to put her troops, right? So I'm also gonna be disturbed if episode 6 shows Halbrand and the Numenorians, or what they're called, arrive in front of the watchtower to aid the people in the watchtower, because time-wise, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I know it sounds like I'm freaking out, and I am, because I've wasted so much time sharpening my Prismacolor pencil, thinking that, come on, Lena, you have to draw in this fan art journal, but I am having this blockage. So the only drawing I've made today is the scream from Edward Monk, because that's how I feel about episode 5. It's a bit funny. I'm freaked out today. Hopefully in 2 or 3 days, when I'm relaxed more, I can see past my own anal tendency of getting too much involved into this TV series and finding errors, getting annoyed about them, and then get past that and find some images that I want to draw. But oh my god, I wish that I had subscription to HBO, and that I would have picked up House of Dragons instead of Rings of Power to be my fan art journal. Maybe I can still do so. Maybe I can divide this journal up. Like, look, I have like a natural center split right here. So if I totally ditch watching Rings of Power because it super annoys me, honestly, guys, I think I'm wasting time. It is 70 minutes of my life that don't come back, and I was so annoyed. I was expecting too much. That's not the way to live. I should, yeah, I don't know what I should, but I should still give it a chance, at least for season 1. I should complete season 1 in this art journal, and I should excuse myself maybe from drawing anything from episode 5, because that's just, let that just slide to the left. Nothing really happened anyway. Everybody is still situated at their last stand from episode 4, so nothing really happened in episode 5 that's worth mentioning. I may be able to skip directly into episode 6 and find a good heroic image to draw of Halbrand. Find something I don't know, something honorable about King Gil-galad to portray. There might be some fighting scenes. There might be something. So, yeah, let me just end this stream now, because now I feel it's annoying to talk more about Rings of Power. I'm gonna go out, make myself some coffee, and then just art in a whole different journal. And just do something else than working in this today.